welcome back to Let's Talk Writing. Before we begin today's show, I have a little bit of a sad announcement that I'd like to make because in some ways it's very sad, and in some other ways it's actually been kind of enlightening. The community has been able to rally around our public access coordinator, Jennifer Hanneberg, who recently had news that her 3-year-old daughter, Sarah, came down with childhood leukemia. As you can guess, it's somewhat devastating. And on top of all of the other heartbreak, financially, it's a setback. So we have been working together to try to raise some funds for Jennifer. So I'd like you to know that we just had a wonderful fundraiser, and we'd like to thank the Clock Tower Grill, Cartwright and Daughters, and Brotherhood Winery for coming together for us and having a dinner. But it's not the end. It's really just the beginning of fundraising. What we'd like you to do is go to youcaring.com. That's youcaring.com, helping the Hanneberg family. If you can, give whatever you can give. We're all going to try to give her some moral support. If you can help her with some financial support, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you for listening, and our best to young Sarah. Today, we have a wonderful guest. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Imogene Drummond, who is an artist in every way. You are going to be fascinated at what this woman has to offer. My name is Vin Dacquino, and today we have Imogene Drummond.
Yeah.
A pleasure.
It's great to be here.
Great
Thank
to have
you, Vin.
Your entire life fascinates me. Tell us a little bit about who Imogene Drummond is.
Okay, well, I grew up traveling with my family.
Extensively.
As a child, yes.
Yeah.
And that influenced me to later travel as an artist. But before I became an artist, I became a family therapist.
Oh, so a family therapist,
Right.
And an artist, a traveler, a filmmaker. Oh my goodness! So this being a therapist, did that inspire your creativity inside of you?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very interested in what makes people tick and what they're interested in,
Yeah.
why they behave the way they do.
What makes people laugh? What makes people cry?
Yep, yep. So at one point, as an artist, I started traveling on painting expeditions. So I actually did that for a 10-year period, where I went on painting expeditions every other year.
Now, did you have formal training as a painter?
Yes.
Oh,
yep.
wow.
I have an MFA from the Maryland Institute, College of Art in Baltimore, Maryland, and it's now one of the premier art schools in the country.
Wow.
A lot of us say they wouldn't accept us now if we went now. But it's a fabulous, fabulous school and organization, wonderful artistic community.
And now this is painting on canvas?
Well, I now paint on paper because I found that was easier for traveling. So I had I was painting and exhibiting. I was in D.C. at the time, and then I moved to New York. And first I went to the Galapagos for 6 weeks and painted. And then...
Now, is this landscapes or?
Well, they're abstract. They're really self-expression. It's an expression of my experience of where I am. So one of the reasons I'm very interested in ancient cultures and in nature and art history. So I wanted to go to different places and see what effect those landscapes would have on me. So I packed my paints and have Paints Will Travel. For
and you
a
gathered
10-year
all these
period.
paint. Now, you didn't actually start teaching art.
No, I was a full-time painter. I painted,
Wow.
exhibited, sold paintings.
Wow.
So I've exhibited internationally. I have some wonderful collectors. And I think of some of the paintings that you're seeing.
Now you have some examples. I believe we have one on right now. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Well, these are paintings mostly from St. Lucia and
Okay.
Costa Rica right now that you're seeing.
So now these are abstracts. What do you look at that inspires that kind of artwork?
Well, when I start painting, I don't usually have a specific idea that I want to paint a
So
specific
you sort of
thing.
see in colors?
I experience it.
Wow.
So some of it's even aural. Like one time I was near the sea, especially in St. Lucia in Costa Rica. So I was painting a lot of blue paintings. And
Wow.
after listening to the sea and the surf, I painted a very large painting that had a lot of surf water shapes. And I think that was influenced not just by looking at the sea, but listening to it.
Wow.
So it's really an expression of my experience.
Yeah.
And so it comes out generally abstract, strong colors.
Yeah, very interesting.
Thank you.
So you put all these together, and then film is.
Well, on one of these painting expeditions, I decided to go to Crete in Greece for a year and take a year and do creative work. So while I was there, I wrote a new story celebrating the creativity in the universe and in you. And that eventually evolved into a film.
Wow.
It seemed to touch people deeply, so I adapted the story in 12 different presentations in 8 different media.
Wow.
And people, after each presentation, people would say, you have to do more with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Now you also do some kind of exercises in creativity.
well, and now this project, Devine Sparks, is
Devine Spark.
what... Sparks.
Okay.
Yep.
Sparks. Okay. That's this here.
Yep, it's a book and
I'm going to
film
grab this right off of here.
program.
And this is Devine Sparks.
Right.
So, yes, tell me about this project, Devine Sparks project.
Well, this is what I originally wrote, the story I originally wrote in Greece, and then did various presentations with it. And eventually, a friend suggested I could learn computer graphics and make an art video for kids,
Wow.
as if that would be easy.
Yeah, really. Good luck.
So 8 years later, I made the film. I got a grant from the Independent Filmmaker Project.
Oh, wow.
So I have a 30-minute multimedia film.
Wow.
And then I decided that for people to really be able to have the film be practical, I would make a book to go with the film. So now it's a book and film project.
Wow. And now what this book does is it lays out activities.
Yes, it's really a new kind of creativity program with the film as an inspiration, and it's linked to art activities, some literacy or writing, various arts
So
activities.
your goal is to bring the creativity out in people.
Yes.
To get
Yes,
them to
absolutely.
express their own creativity.
Exactly, exactly. It's about facilitating individual creativity, not teaching art. You might learn art techniques and concepts along the way, but what I'm trying to do is facilitate their own individual creativity.
Wow. Get
Yeah.
them to find their own. So give me an example of one of these activities.
Okay, so one of my favorite is the chapter of green, which is about growth,
Okay.
ferns, things growing in the earth green, being green. And so we have a dance activity. It's
Oh.
one of the choices.
And you get boys to do these dances
Yes,
too. That's a
yes.
good thing. That's a good thing.
And so I'll hold this up.
All right.
So we show the chapter in the film, and then we have a discussion
We'll go
about
this way.
growth.
There we go. Yep. Here we go.
And then these are cards. So this is the dance cards activity. So there's 6
Okay.
choices, and they're things like we're talking about growth. So it's about going from a coconut to a palm tree, spore to fern, seed to flower, egg to fish. And the children, we cut this up and make cards, and then they turn them upside down. They choose a card.
And then they have to do whatever card they get.
Exactly. So we do an
okay.
improv dance. There's a music video on the DVD, and they curl up on the floor, and then they do an improv dance about the card that they've chosen, about the
Wow.
growth process.
And it's like an immersion.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So like here, this one would go from tadpole to frog. And the first time we did it, the kids loved it. And they were like, can we do that again?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
But then they don't just do the dance. Then they create a painting or 3D image of their experience of doing the improv
So
dance.
it's making creative connections.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I like that.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
So now, do these children like sign up for a class? Is that
Well,
how's that? How are the children chosen, or do they choose themselves?
it's right now I'm looking for an agent and a publisher.
Oh,
And it
great.
can be used in lots of different ways, whether it's schools or after-school programs, libraries
And
programs.
then do you become an artist in residence at a school or a library?
Right now, I am presenting it in 10 sessions at the San Miguel Academy in Newburgh.
Oh, wow.
It's a very
Okay.
special middle school for boys. So I have 17 boys. And
Wow.
so right now it's part of their actual curriculum.
Wow.
And they're loving it.
Oh,
it's
I'm
great.
sure.
And before I've presented it as an after-school art enrichment program at the Garrison Union Free School in Garrison, New York. But it's in
Wow.
a couple of different schools have accepted it, and a couple of libraries and a private art center. So I'm trying to get it out there, and I've just started blogging about the experience in San Miguel.
Yeah.
So-
Wow. Sounds wonderful. So now, another experience. I mean, another activity.
Okay, so there's not just painting, but also writing. So
That's what I want to hear.
yeah. So, for example, there's a poetry one. Let's see if I can find it. So here's one where one of the main images in the film is a seashell. So this is for adults working with children 8 to 12, but you could adapt it to different ages because it's really about sparking empowerment through creativity. So this one is an activity about writing a poem in the shape of a conch shell.
Okay.
So-
they have to write a poem. So it's like concrete poetry.
Exactly. That's
There you
exactly
go.
what it is.
Ah,
Yep.
wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So then they create poems.
Yep.
You must get some amazing poetry.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, how old are these boys?
Well, these boys right now that I'm working with are 10 and 11.
Wow, that's good. That's a
So,
great age. I taught 6th grade for years.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
it's just amazing what
Yeah.
a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old boy can do.
Yeah.
Really inspire that creativity in them.
Right. They
it's a
have great
wonderful thing.
energy
So
at that age.
how did all this begin for you? When did you reach the point where you said, I have got to get this creativity out to the people?
Well, it's been a long process.
Yeah. So, I mean, was there a starting point? A lot of our writers out there are wondering when, how can I get what's inside of me to an audience? There's a point where you stop reaching yourself and start reaching out from
Right.
yourself.
Right.
And where was that for you?
Well, I think it was a long process, and really it seemed that people responded so much to this
that's
that
the
kept
key.
me going.
When you start to get, so how did that response come? Now, but you were selling pieces at
Paintings.
galleries, yeah,
Yeah.
paintings at galleries,
Yeah.
right? So, so you were doing that. Now, were you doing that locally, or were you doing that as you were traveling?
As I was traveling and
Wow.
locally. Yep, New
Wow.
York. Yeah.
And it must have been difficult. How to make all those contacts to be able to get in there? I know there's a lot of artists out there who
Yeah.
are wondering how can they exhibit their work? How do
Right.
you get into galleries, and how do you start reaching out?
Well, I think you just
start
do it.
Network,
You just
yeah.
do it.
Network, make connections.
Yep.
do it. So you started to do that.
Yep.
And then when did this idea of putting it into a book happen?
Well, I wrote this story many
Right.
years ago in Crete, like I said, and then it evolved, and eventually I made it into the film. And then once I made the film, I felt like, well, I need to do more with it.
Tell me about the story.
The story is, I consider it like a new story
Okay.
of wonder and transformation. It's really about celebrating the creativity in the universe and in you. So it's kind of a natural for extending it in the book. But
Right.
the film could actually stand alone, and it has won an award at its premiere, and it's been in other film festivals.
Wow.
But it's 30 minutes, so it's for all ages. So it could stand alone, whereas the activity book is really companion to the film.
So now, can a teacher use this program
Absolutely.
without you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what it's for. It's really for not just teachers, but anybody working with children, or, it could be used in hospitals with children, because people understand that creativity is very helpful for healing.
So would you need a class set, or the teacher could have these 3 things to work with?
Yeah, the teacher could have these, or a counselor, or an art center, all this different.
And you show the DVD.
Yep.
And then you offer activities.
Right.
For them to do after seeing the DVD.
Right.
And the DVD sort of inspires them and gives them an understanding of what they need to create using these activities.
Yep.
I love it.
And it's like, somebody described the program as being like a river. You can step in it at any point.
Yeah.
You don't have to do, 12 sessions, or there's actually 33
and
activities.
you can be a writer, you can be an artist, you could be a dancer.
Exactly.
So it really communicates with whatever creativity you're best at.
Well, and I think it helps you find that.
Yeah.
It's find what you're comfortable
because sometimes
with.
we don't know.
Yep.
I know when I work with writers, some of the writers say, especially young writers, I work with a lot of high school writers, and I say, and they say, I want to be a writer, and I say, what does that mean? Do you want to write labels for cans of soup, or you want what kind of writing do you want to do? And they go, well, writing, and I say, it's like music. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What kind of writing do you want to do? What have you done? And they say, well, I've written some short stories for my English teacher. And I say, that's not enough.
Yeah.
You need to find who you are. Are you a poet? Are you a short story writer? Are you a novelist? What kind of writing turns you on? And the fact is, many of them haven't done all that kind of writing. Same thing with dance. Same thing with art. I don't think I've ever painted a serious painting in my life. So I don't know if I'm an artist. Maybe if I took a course, I would find out that I could be a wonderful artist.
Yeah.
Something in my head says that I can, because creatively, I see the work I could do.
Right.
I don't know if I could actually do it, but I see and hear what I could create. So it's very hard to get into a kid and bring out what's ever there.
Right. And I think, there's, unfortunately, a lot of people think they aren't creative.
Yeah.
And they've had bad experiences.
Yeah.
And this is really about helping people experience the joy of accessing their inner artist. So, and that's why I think it can be applied to different ages.
Yeah, someday I'm going to write a book called C+ students could paint an A+ painting.
There you go.
And they can.
Absolutely.
I mean, they really can.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know until you try.
Exactly.
And
it's about the
as
process.
much as I love school, and as much as I've been involved in teaching, unfortunately, it inhibits many children because there's set curriculum.
Right.
And sometimes creative children live outside the box. We know that about creative people, that they don't always walk the line, the norm.
Right.
And in fact, I used to laugh when I'd sit around the teacher's table, in the teacher's room, and I'd hear some of these teachers say, the problem with this kid is he's just not like most average kids. And I'd say, I want that one. That's the kid I want.
Yeah.
Because I've never been on the normal path. I've always been different from everybody else.
Right.
That's the part about me I love.
Right.
It makes you nuts, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's good to be different and to celebrate your difference.
Exactly.
And that's what I like about your program and your book. What it does is it celebrates a child's difference.
Exactly.
And it helps the child find what that difference is.
Exactly.
And it's not limiting the child to art.
Right. Or conformity or compliance.
Yes.
Right.
And it's open enough so that it can bring in more of the kids on the outskirts of normalcy. Okay, so tell me more about where you're going with all of this.
Well, I'm trying to get it out into the world.
Yeah, so now it's a matter of getting people to understand what this is.
Right.
Get it into schools, get it into museums,
Libraries,
get it, libraries,
galleries and
Yep.
museums.
Now, are we encouraging children to do artwork of their own, to become artists?
Well, that's what this does.
That's what it does.
And right.
I mean, and that's the whole idea. And is there a step after this? Once you turn on the passion, where do you go with it? Then what does a teacher do with the kid who's on fire?
Well, I think you just go with it. You keep
Yep.
keep affirming it
And you keep
nurturing
going.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because what I'm getting to is, now that we've done this, is there a guide for teachers to say, look, now that you've done this, or is that your next goal?
Well, I think that is what is unique about this. Is
Yep.
it does allow and promote individualization, whether
Right.
you're speaking about classrooms or any types of program. And I don't know if you've heard of Ken Robinson.
I have.
Sir Ken Robinson, he's been knighted for his work about transforming education and promoting creativity. And I think this is doing what he says we need to do.
You know, we're in the age where kids are being tested to death. And teachers are screaming and yelling because they're so tired of these standards and all of these things that they have to do and try to find themselves teaching to tests because they're so worried about whether their kids are going to reach the right scores. And I worry that sometimes we have teachers who think their job is to teach curriculum and not
Right.
children.
Right. Wow. Well said.
And that's scary because that's the job. We don't want to create English teachers. We want to create teachers of children.
Right.
And to understand that kids come from different places. And sometimes we forget that kids have more than one domain. You know, school is one domain, but then there's the community and the family. There's the social political world out there. There's so many other places a child has to live in. And one of the most important ones is self. And we lose children's self-esteem
Right.
when they score poorly on these standardized tests. And yet here's a kid who can create a piece of art that is stunning. So we have to let children understand values. And that's what
Right.
your program, I
Right.
think, does do.
Thank you. Well, I know I have to say repeatedly that there's no such thing as good art or bad art.
Yeah, right.
It's self-expression,
Right.
and so I want these kids to express themselves visually.
I mean, who knows? One day we're going to look at a piece of art and value a can of soup and say that's art. Andy Warhol changed the world.
Yeah.
You know, and let
Yeah.
people say that,
Yeah.
you know what? Art is in the eyes of the beholder.
Yes.
And go ahead. You know, I tell my writers, and some of my writers are surprised when I say this to them. I say, listen to me. There are rules for writing. Ignore them. That sometimes what you have to understand is what works in writing is what works in writing. You create a piece that breaks every rule. E.E. Cummings said, I'm not using capital letters. Oh, but you have to. No, I don't. It's my poem. I'll write it my way. Well, you know, it's important. In this new day and age, I mean, when we were growing up, you know, people had to do, you know, you had to have your hair cut the right way. I remember when the Beatles came out, the principal of our school had an assembly and said, don't you dare start growing your hair and cutting it that way because we will change it.
Right.
And they were very strict about that. So sometimes children have to think outside of the box.
Right.
Your program thinks outside of the box. You are an artist, you think like an artist, and you teach like an artist.
Thank
And
you.
that is crucial. It's important that you continue doing that. So now you personally are going to try to get into schools. You're going to try to get this all out there.
I want it to be available, so
So
people
is it
can
available?
find
I mean, it's
No,
available online. It's not yet.
Not yet. That's what I'm
Not
looking
yet.
for. But I just agree with you so much. I think creativity is so important, and I think it's starting to be realized and recognized how important it is for enriching learning.
Yes.
People, you know, these students who have their creativity affirmed, they learn better.
Right.
They can have more satisfying lives.
Yep.
It can help with healing. So I think people are starting to understand that.
Help us healing, is that what you said?
Help with healing.
With healing, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because healing comes from within. And art comes from within.
Right.
They're
Right.
coming from the same places.
Yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts. Now, where do you go from here? Now that this program is done, are you going to be trying to create other videos, other books?
Well, I am making art videos as an artist where I
all right.
paint and
When you say
film
art
it.
videos, this is your artwork?
yes, it's my artwork. I made one in Costa Rica where I filmed myself painting in different stages, and then I filmed some of the environment,
Oh, interesting.
and then later I made a video where I added music from a friend, actually a couple of friends who are avant-garde musicians, and I layered the visuals, and then I layered the sound.
Wow.
So it's an experimental 5-minute video. There's no voiceover in it like there is with my other, this film with Devine Sparks, and then I have an animation that
Now,
also
do you have a
voiceover.
film company or something you work with? Or, I mean, is there a crew or something?
No, it's me.
Wow,
it's me.
it's just you.
But with Devine Sparks, I got this fabulous grant from Independent Filmmaker Project. So that really got everything going with the film, and I was able to hire some wonderful other editor and filmmakers.
All right, here's what I'd like you to do. You look at that camera right
Okay.
now, and you tell that audience what you want to leave them with. What do they need to do? What do they need to remember?
Okay, well, I think we are all creative beings, and I think it's important to realize that we are all creative, and that's an affirming identification, that it's empowering, and that developing your own creativity is empowering.
Well, okay, you heard it here. What we need to do is find the creativity within ourselves. We need to find out who we are, what we are. Can't let people tell us who we need to be. Find the art in you, find the creativity in you, find this program. It's called Devine Sparks. We are here with Imogene Drummond, who has been a wonderful guest. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing these moments with us. Tune in for other artists. And in the meantime, thank you for being you.
Thank you.
What a
Thank
pleasure.
you, Vinny.
Great show, great opportunity. We are certainly going to make sure we find your work online. And right. All right,
I
nice
sound
work,
okay.
gang. How'd we do,
I think
all
I got
right?
my points in.
Good. Now,
Is it-
the good news is
Thank you.
they're creating a DVD as we speak, and you can actually take it home with you and see the
You're
show.
kidding me.
Let me
Oh.
get this.
This
Good.
Because we have to be careful with these
good idea. I
Little-
didn't even know I had it on.
creatures. I know, you forget,
I would have
right?
stood right up. I'm glad I didn't stand up.
Okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
grab
oh,
this
You
through.
know, that wasn't a problem at all. That came,
There.
yeah, that
Okay.
worked.
I think it
Everything
came
was
out
smooth.
great.
Yeah. Now, the other good news is you can actually take this.
You can get you.
Oh yeah, I can get me. You can actually take that DVD, put it on your website, and then it's on there. Now I am going to put it on YouTube today, so it'll be on YouTube and it'll be on my website. So if someone goes to Let's Talk